Welcome to another edition of Stone Talk. As always, I'm your host, Jason Osgood, Senior Director of Distribution for StoneHardscapes. If you're new here, thank you very much for joining us today. If you've been here several times, thank you for coming back. This is, for those who are new, this is a monthly webinar series where we talk about natural stone, and we talk about all the nuances and elegance of the product itself. We talk about things such as installation, proper techniques. We talk about care and maintenance for stone, and we talk about different quality levels. As always, if you've missed an episode or you want to go back and rewatch something, you can do so on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search for StoneHardscapes. There you will find all of my webinar series, as well as our designer series, our designer talk with Linda Abbott, who is our senior design consultant. I would encourage you to go and take a look at both of them to get more information about StoneHardscapes, get some ideas about the different quality levels, get some design ideas from Linda. So let's get started. I think the one thing that will never be debated about natural stone is the absolute beauty and elegance that it brings to any backyard project. The aesthetic value that it can afford to a pool is unsurpassed by anything else. Do keep in mind that the largest design or aesthetic element on a pool itself is the deck. And what a natural stone deck will do for the overall look for the finished project is astonishing. And that's something that I don't think anybody can debate. But I get asked all the time, and here at StoneHardscapes, we are very transparent, and I think it's very important to understand where the stone comes from, how we get the stone to you. So this month's webinar series is titled Travertine Origins, from Quarry to Patio. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There's four main things that we're going to discuss today during this episode. Where does the stone come from, and how do we move it out of the quarry itself? How is the stone manipulated into the size and shapes that we use? How do we get the stone to your backyard? And then we'll talk about the current challenges of natural stone, of the natural stone industry as of today. Now, I get asked all the time, and you're going to hear me mention quarries quite a bit. And there's a difference between quarries and mines, and I think it's important to understand the difference. Mines and the mining process is of extracting buried material from under the earth surface. So digging down into the earth deep. And mines themselves are typically elaborate underground complexes that extract such minerals as ore and coal and salt, just to name a few. Quarrying is the process of extracting directly from the earth surface, not digging down through it, but extracting from the earth's surfaces. It's a process referred to as typically as stepping. Quarries are a type of an open pit mine, but are defined by the material that is extracted, such as dimensional stone and sand and gravel and slate. Now, each quarry is going to be a little different, and you'll see in some pictures here coming up, but the quarries are stepped in layers. And the layers themselves can be anywhere from 12 to roughly 40 feet in height and take approximately 2 to 5 years to extract the entire layer. Now, StoneHardscapes has worked diligently over the years to produce and to maintain a productive acquisition strategy. Strategically, we have partnered with factories located in the closest proximity to each product type's quarry. And by doing this, we minimize the domestic shipping costs for block transportation and ensure the most accurate diversification of quality levels. These long-term, high-volume partnerships guarantee that we have the best cost on both raw material and finished goods. Now let's get into quarries themselves. This overview is of an ivory quarry, and you can see the absolute scale and scope of the quarry itself. You can sort of make out the stepping process in the quarry. Here's another quarry. This was a gold and a country classic quarry. And as you can see, where the yellow arrow is, that's the step that they're currently working on and just finishing up, as evidenced by the debris field that is left behind. Now, that debris field is left there for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it's where the blocks fall and break up and there's debris there. But they leave that debris field for the blocks to fall on, so it's a more cushioned fall to break the block up. And we'll show that in a picture here in a minute. There's also a staging area there on this step where when the slabs fall and they break into blocks, it's taken over to the staging area and cut into more manageable. Now, once they have stepped this layer all the way back, they'll clean this step off and they'll go to work on the next layer. And then so on and so on. Here's a really good picture of the scope and the scale of a quarry itself. Now, that wall height there where you see the dump truck is roughly 35 to 40 feet high. So you see the scale. Now, to start the process of pulling the blocks out of the quarry itself starts here. And as you'll notice, I've circled the slab that they're getting ready to work on. And what they'll do is, as they work on this slab, they'll drill holes in 3 different areas, 2 corners, and then the top. And as they drill those holes meet up. They use typically a pneumatic or a hydraulic drill to get through the stone itself. Once the holes have met up, they will feed a diamond cable through. And that diamond cable is used to cut that slab away from the mountain itself. I've highlighted the holes that are there, and I've also highlighted the diamond cable that goes through the mountain. Now, that diamond cable is attached to a machine that will continuously work that cable through and continuously keep that cable tight. So it's on rails and it will move itself back as the diamond cuts through the slab itself. It's another really good picture of that. I've highlighted the cable again as it cuts through. Now, once it cuts completely through, a front end loader, or in this case, an excavator, will pry that slab away from the mountain. When they do that, they'll start pushing dirt and rock down in between the slab and the mountain itself. That's to prevent the slab from coming back, but they'll continue to push that slab away, either using a front end loader, or in this case, again, an excavator, or sometimes they'll use inflator bags. They'll drop inflator bags down there, inflate them up, and push the slab away. As they push the slab away, it will fall, and as it falls, it will break up into these large chunks. Now, these large chunks are what they're looking for and hoping for, and they'll move those over to the staging area where they will cut them into what we'll call more manageable blocks. Now, that's just a smaller machine than we saw earlier. Same concept, where they'll wrap a diamond cable around it. The machine will run that diamond cable through until it cuts, continuously working backwards to keep that diamond cable taut. Once they've cut them into slabs, they'll move the blocks over into a larger staging area themselves. Here you can see the scope of these blocks. The tires on that excavator there are roughly 7 feet in diameter. So it kind of gives you an idea of how big this block actually is. Now they'll stage them in an area there at the mine. And when they do that, that's when the blocks get their designation. They'll be labeled with where they're going, what factory they're going to. They'll be labeled with what company owns those blocks, and they'll be tentatively labeled with a quality level. The blocks are then loaded onto a flatbed truck and taken to the factory. Now, this is where the magic really happens. That will start to manipulate the block itself into the shapes and sizes that we use on an everyday basis in the stone industry. The block will be loaded up onto a cutting board or cutting carriage, and the diamond blade, in this case, will run across on a vertical and cut down. That diamond blade is roughly 6 foot in diameter, and a smaller blade that is protected by that red shroud, as you can see, will cut on a horizontal and cut that slab away from the block itself. The gentleman there will pull that piece off that's just cut and take it to the next section. There's also another process of when we're cutting just large slabs off of blocks, and this is a saw machine. That saw has multiple blades, and we'll work back and forth until that block is completely cut through, and there will be roughly 12 to 15 slabs pulled out of that. From there, the blocks are taken and the cut pieces are taken to the next station, where they are cut into more manageable pieces, where they're now starting to look like the material that we use every day. In some factories, this is automated. In this factory here, this is still done by man. What he's doing here is he's trimming off a piece. Now that piece will not go to waste. They will use that piece either as a ledger panel or as a design or pencil series. He'll cut these slabs through and put them on a pallet. And in this case, these are 16 by 24s going into a French pattern. So he'll cut this next piece here. What's left behind is a 16 by 16 piece. So out of that one sheet, you got two 16 by 24s and one 16 by 16. They're palletized, sent to the finishing station. At the finishing stations that you see here, machines will run over the top of them, cleaning the debris, anything that's left behind from the process of pulling it out of the block or process of pulling it out of the mountain. And from here, the process will be sent to tumbling. Now, smaller pieces we put into a tub like this that is vibrating, and the vibratory action will sink the slabs themselves, the stone themselves, down to the bottom, as these rock will rub against the sides and smooth the edges off. It's basically just wearing the corners and the edges down of the slabs themselves. For larger pieces, they'll be put into slot vibrators, and same process. The vibratory action takes the block and rubs the edges off of them, smooths them down so that we have a nice soft edge for a tumble finish. Now, during the process, during all of this process, our material is inspected. We make sure that we have the consistency of quality to go along with the quality of material. So when you order a product from us, when you order a premium or a plus product from us, we are inspecting it through the process to ensure that you have that premium or that plus material. We have two gentlemen that work over in Turkey for us that will follow our material from quarry to container. You'll notice this when you receive pallets from us or crates from us, that we have an inspection sticker on that. That sticker will ensure you that it has passed all of our rigorous quality control inspections. Once the material is palletized or crated, it is sent to an area for staging to be put on trucks and to be shipped to the ports. So here in this video, you can see that the flatbed trucks have actually made it to the ports, and they're loading our containers. These containers will be fully loaded with material and then taken to the docks. Now, it's important to understand the containers themselves. The container quantities and the weight of the containers can be different depending on the port of entry. So for instance, the Port of Miami is different than the Port of Houston, and sometimes material that comes in through one port, the containers can have more material than they can going into another port. Containers themselves can be loaded with different material, but it all has to be of the same color. Cannot load material that is different colors, but you can do different patterns, and you can do different material, different thickness. You can do pavers as well as ledger panels. all have to be the same color. And then sometimes the container color itself will dictate and determine the different size of the container and capacity. Sometimes blue containers are smaller than yellow containers. Now from container, it goes to the dock. It arrives at the dock on this carriage and it's loaded onto the ship itself. The containers are loaded according to size and weight to help properly balance the ship. It's a question I get all the time, but the amount of time that a container ship spends at the port depends on a lot of variables. Size of the ship, size of the port, the amount of cranes that are there, what is coming off and what is going on. There's no way to dictate that a container ship is going to be there for 8 hours or it's going to be there for 36 hours. The average time currently that it takes for a container ship from port to port is roughly 40 to 60 days right now. So keep that in mind when you're ordering material or you have to do a special order, that from port to port is roughly 40 to 60 days. So it can be upwards of 2 months. Now, a really, really important note to this is that once the material gets in the containers, gets to the port, gets on the ship, we have no control over its time to destination. I'm going to say that again, that once the material gets to the port itself, gets in the containers, gets on the ship, we don't have any control over the time to destination. Many factors can happen. The ship could have multiple ports that it has to stop at. Weather can happen to delay a ship. There can be an issue at the port itself that is delaying the ship from offloading. So keep in mind, when you order material from us and we give you an estimate on time, it is just that it's an estimate for what is an average at this point. But as soon as it gets on the ship, we really don't have a lot of control over the time it gets to port. Now, once the material gets to its ported destination, the 2 prior steps are reversed. The containers are offloaded onto carriages. Those carriages are delivered to our facilities. As you can see here, there's a container that is on a carriage. Carriage is backed up to our dock and our forklifts are offloading. Now, once the material gets to us, now we have control over its time to you. So when you place an order with us, we will get the material, get it onto a truck, and get it shipped to you. Now, most of the deliveries are made with a flatbed and what's called a moffett. A moffett is the red machine you see on the back of this truck here. It is basically a forklift, but has the ability to go off-road, has the ability to take the material right to the job site. Now, this is a flatbed truck. We also have the ability to load and deliver flatbed trailers, which give you a much greater quantity of material. And then it delivers to you. And then you install it and you have a finished deck. So what I'm hoping is that when you see material from quarry to block to container to you, you kind of now have a better understanding and idea of what goes into the steps and the variables that go into getting the material delivered to you so that you have an aesthetically pleasing deck on your swimming pool. Again, I hope that this has helped. I hope that this information was something you're looking for, and I hope that you're able to take this and understand a little better as to some of the nuances and some of the behind the curtains activity that happens in the stone industry, specifically with StoneHardscapes. And with that, I thank you again for joining us. I do really appreciate all of you who come month on month, or those who take a look at these videos after the fact. Please join me next month. I'll have another video next month, or next month I'll talk about segmental decking and the benefits of segmental decking over concrete. And with that, I say thank you very much. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great rest of your month. Have a great day.